It is Thursday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in as soon as you come in. Share the live. Share the live. Come on in. How are you? Come on in as soon as you come in. Share the live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you today? How are you today? Welcome, welcome, welcome. I will wait for a few more people to join. Yes, I can see your name, Ramona. Yes, I can see your name. So yeah, you guys, StreamYard allows you to type your name in if you want me to see your name when you post a comment, when you ask a question, when you post a thought. So go ahead and follow the instructions, okay? If you want to share your views and you want me to know you. Okay, welcome to Transforming Trauma podcast with Dr. Triffy. I'm Dr. Triffy. This is Therapy Thursday. Ramona says she stayed up for this. Hi, Faye Dashin. Faye Dashin is Emmeline. Hi, Emmeline. How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you come in, share the live. Good evening, Valley. How are you? How are you doing? It is a lovely Thursday afternoon. I am feeling rested. I got a little bit of sleep. Ramona, you'll be happy to hear that. Another one of my friends called, who knows me and says, have you been getting enough sleep? Well, life's a little hard right now. So come on in. Hi, Iseline. Blessed evening to you too. Come on in, share the live. Let's talk. As you all see, I had an entirely different topic planned for tonight until I listened to the interview. Yeah, until I listened to the interview, I had a completely different topic to talk about. Good night, love. Hi, Facebook user. If you tell me your name, I know who you are. Or if you follow the instructions on StreamYard, you can type your name so I know who you are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. Come on in. Who am I? I'm Dr. Triffy. I'm a licensed psychologist in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm licensed in the state of Georgia as a psychologist and also as a licensed professional counselor. But who am I really? Who am I really? I'm a little girl from Cottage, for Ma Josephine and Henry Wallace, okay, of Clifton. Kokoye, exactly. But Whoop is my dad. Whoop is the chef, manager, Capowal. Hi, Trudy, of Cottage, and he's my dad. So a lot of my ways of thinking come from my stepdad. Whoa. Okay, so when I say I'm from Dominica, I like to clarify I am not from the Dominican Republic. We love them, but they're a completely different island. I'm from Dominica, nature island of the Caribbean. We are further south, and we speak English and the French Creole, okay? In addition to practicing psychology, I'm a sound practitioner, sound vibrational healing practitioner. I'm also a Reiki master. Hi, Mawos. Sakafet. Nou pale oswea. Paske mon koute bagay sa jodi la. And kom si di, I was left with a few more questions. I actually felt more unsettled after this interview than I felt with the first interview. So, what do? I show up on Thursdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, and I use trending topics and psychology to teach people how to think better so they can feel better and do better. That's what I do in my practice. I'm trying to offer that in my Transforming Trauma podcast as well. Okay, I really value your thoughts. I really value your questions. When you come in, trust me, you're free to ask any question you want. If I cannot answer the question, I will direct you to somebody who can or to a resource. And if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't know. Okay? Hi, Mervin. Mervyn Paul is my twin. Mervyn Paul is my twin. I say we are twins because we started preschool together and moved up through school together. We'd hold each other's hands and walk to Clifton from Cottage. All right, y'all. So here's the story that we're working with tonight. Today, it's been 8 to 9 days since a young man from the community of Bells Warner came into the house of his uncle, slashed his uncle with his machete, his cutlass, and kidnapped the little girl who was being cared for by that family. According to the interview today, it appears that they've been caring for her for at least 5 years. They are not biologically related to the little girl. Yeah. So as of today, she's not yet been found. I just looked at MO News. MO, thank you so much for all the work you do. All the work you do. Thank you so much. And they're still looking. So I'm hoping we can dissect that caregiver's interview tonight. I had planned to talk about coping strategies for individuals who endure trauma or traumatic events like this. Talk to us as a community to see, hey, what can we do to prepare? What can we do to plan for when she hopefully returns? Because all of us are continuing to hold the hope that she is still alive and that we can help to restore her to health. Help restore her to health. Okay? So here's my caveat for the night. My caveat is, as a psychologist, sometimes I can think about myself as a voyeur. You know what's a voyeur? A voyeur is like a peeping Tom. Somebody who's like, they're always in your business, like they're trying to open your window to see what's inside your house, you know, to whatever, right? And from that perspective, sorry, as a voyeur, you're on the outside and you're looking in. You're on the outside looking in. So tonight I kind of feel a little bit like that because I'm on the outside. I'm not in Dominica right now. I'm just basing a lot of my thinking on what I'm reading, what I'm hearing. Okay? So in Dominica, imagine our people are in a fishbowl, and those of us who are on the outside, we're watching the goldfishes in the fishbowl, and we have a completely different perspective, perhaps, than the people who are in the fishbowl, right? Because if I do this, you get a completely different view than if I do that. Yeah, you see a lot of different things. Okay. I think that's one of the reasons why psychologists, we cannot do psychotherapy with our families and with our close friends because we're too much inside of the story. So it does help to have a perspective where you're kind of like the one peeking from behind the curtain and looking in because your perspective is different. You can see a lot that other people who are actually in the fishbowl cannot see. Okay? So I'm asking for your understanding from the start. Plus, I don't know everything. I know some things. Okay. So, sometimes I think when our people back home, imagine again, they're in that fishbowl going through the experiences. I think they can feel very overwhelmed. Right now, I'm sure they're feeling a lot more overwhelmed than we are, who are maybe on the outside. The thing is, though, life doesn't care about that. Life doesn't care if you're overwhelmed. It's going to still keep sending you shots. Okay? So I think it's important to stay open, to stay flexible. If you get a new piece of information, keep your mind open so that if there really is evidence to support this new piece of information, you allow it in, as opposed to just being like, oh, I know what I know, and that's it. Okay? So I want to start with this. Just who is Kernisha And who's Kernisha's family? Now, based on the interview, Kernisha's mother disappeared about 8 to 9 years ago. She disappeared. I don't know what happened, and I don't know if anybody has said yet that they know what happened to Kernisha's biological mother. Kernisha's biological father is still alive, but from what I've heard, his relationship with Kernisha is inconsistent, in and out, not steady. I don't know that she can absolutely depend on him. After her mother disappeared, she lived, it seems, for a time in Stock Farm with her grand auntie, like the sister to her mother's mother. But according even to her grandmother, who I heard earlier speaking to Curtis on that roadside interview, she stayed up in Stock Farm for a while, but so many things were happening to her. Like she said something to the effect that the child was pooing. I don't know what exactly that means. The child was pooing. Pooey means to rot. So she was rotting, is what the grandmother said. I'm not sure what she meant to say by that. The wife of the pastor, who is also the uncle of the abductor, is the current caregiver. She and the husband are the current caregivers. That caregiver wife apparently was at some time in a relationship with the maternal grandmother's brother, and actually had a child with him. At least one of her children is with Kernisha's grand uncle. All right, so they're the current caregivers, and they've been for the past 5 years. The caregiver wife says that the child calls the abductor Uncle Kian. The family seems to be very close on his side. Some might say enmeshed. Some might say enmeshed. Kiki Beloved, you said eczema. Okay, grandmother described it as pooing, eczema. So Kernisha has a history of, like medically, of eczema, which is a skin rash that can get very intense if it's not cared for properly. So Kian, the abductor, according to the wife, who's the caregiver now, supposedly views Kernisha as a daughter type person in his life. All right, so for me, I see loads of potential barriers and problems, even just caring for Kernisha. So she's alone. She's essentially alone because her mother is gone, but her father is not really present and connected. As a person who is giving care to somebody else's child, all of us can be realistic when we say this. If it's not your biological child, or let me say it this way, if it's your biological child that from the moment you found out you were pregnant, you start connecting to this life inside of you once you find out you're pregnant, that's a different bonding process. It's also a different bonding process if this child comes to you as an infant versus a toddler versus a child versus an older child. So realistically, the bonding, we're working on bonding here. It's not clear to me, but it might, I took it to mean that I took some of what the caregiver wife was saying to mean that they might not have been planning to care for her indefinitely. So they might have been stepping in to give her some care, but either they were not planning on doing it forever, or while they started doing it, problems started to pop up because there are many attempts to get her to be somewhere else with somebody else. Now, the truth is, a cute baby is going to grow up. A cute little girl is going to grow up and become what? A teenager. And when any child becomes a teenager, those brain hormones again, those hormones in the body start causing us to act in ways that make it really uncomfortable sometimes for our caregivers or parents. So that caregiver husband states, we all took notice when Kernisha started to get fat. Now, I looked at her picture. She's not fat, but I think he was saying when she hit puberty and she started putting on a little weight, getting a little curvier, all of that. I was a little confused as to why that piece of information bled out of his subconscious or his consciousness. Because to me, it seemed like there were many different things that, it was interesting to me that piece of information came out. But anyway, the caregiver husband said that he spends a lot of time with Kernisha, teaching, training, praying for her. And he says he prays that she'll have a positive impact on the world, perhaps as a lawyer, perhaps as something else. But he never guessed it would be in this way that she might be creating an impact. The wife says that Kernisha was a lot of things. She was a loving child. She was a child who spent a lot of time and good time with her. She was a child who would share her food with her and her husband, who would even put her food in their mouth. She was mouthy. And she gave an example of where the little girl, in response to something the wife, said to her, said, "You have a problem with that?" The current caregivers, now they live in a house that's not equipped with a lot of modern day conveniences, apparently. So things like internet and Wi-Fi, it sounds as if that wasn't there. And, Kernisha is being developmentally appropriate when she expresses interest in, clothes. So the lady says, well, she's into clothes, her makeup, her cell phone. She's doing what teenagers are really correct about doing. That's just the stage of life, and that's just what her peers are doing. So that's what she's also doing. Hi, Fitz. Hi, my cousin. Hi, y'all. Somebody says the fact that she kept saying is problematic for me. Rosamond says, why use was? Somebody suggests abuse. Now, what I do know for sure is that many people drop the ball. Many people dropped the ball on this little girl. Now, 5 years of caring for somebody else's child with very little resources, like, I give kudos to that, right? That's pat on the back for that. Because, they didn't have to do it. And it sounds too like they were trying to get out of it. Okay? It also seems like both Kernisha and the family, the current family, were trying to get out of that relationship. We're trying to get out of that situation. The caregiver states she reached out to Kernisha's relatives many times, to come for your child, the lady said. To no avail. To come for your child. To come for your child. The biological father, according to the mother, the wife caregiver, said, in response, he is already caring for his dad. I had to do a lot of deep breathing. I had to do a lot of deep breathing in response to that. The biological father said, I'm already caring for my elderly dad. I cannot care for my daughter. I'm drinking water, but I am not minding my business on this one. The caregiver wife says she has reached out to the welfare department to intervene, and she was promised callbacks. She said, I don't know, she said, because this is information that can either be collaborated or not. The caregiver wife says, no callbacks. She says her daughter comes down once and they go to the welfare department for help on what seems like a separate occasion. And the welfare department says, you already have them. You have them already. Hold them. Now, the them she's talking about, apparently she was also caring for a little boy who was related to Kernisha's family. So no callbacks, although she was promised callbacks. That's what she said. Again, I don't know. And these are things that you can easily collaborate, right? Or corroborate. Meaning to confirm. You can always call welfare department. They keep logs. She says a whole year. She begs the biological father to come get your child. And if you cannot come get your child, at least put a little money on your phone. Put a $5 on your phone so you can call your child, because your child is talking about my daddy, my daddy, my daddy, my daddy. Curtis! So she says, on the radio, she goes into Curtis! More pack on it, Curtis. Curtis, I'm sorry, Curtis, I don't know you, but Curtis. The lady said, a whole year, she begs you to put a little money on your phone to call your daughter. And you tell her for a whole year that you don't have $5 to put on your phone. The whole year is broke, you broke like that. Brooks, you broke comme ça. Curtis, passe à qui les enfants ont whole l'année passée, femme la ka made, we ka beg, we ka plead ever. Many people dropped the ball. As children do, regardless of what their biological parents did to get them into foster care, kids keep this fantasy in their mind that their parents are going to come rescue them. My daddy's going to come. My mommy's going to come. For her mother's disappeared, so the only parent she's got is my daddy. So I'm sure when the lady's giving her correction and she's upset, I wish my daddy would come. I'm sure when she's feeling lonely, I wish my daddy would call. The caregiver wife says she spoke to the grandmother who we heard during the interview that Curtis was trying to take sideways with the poor lady. I felt some compassion for her then. If you all don't know, I'll tell you all maybe if I remember by the end of the story. If you know the story, type it in the chat. So the caregiver wife says she calls the grandmother, who we heard being very passionate about her grandchild, that she wanted to come and spend some time. We have to talk about this spending some time business. Grandmother says, I don't have an extra bed. I don't have an extra bed. Father says he has no time, no money, and actually even stops calling after a while. Like he lets it go. He just lets go. The caregiver wife says she was looking, the child is a teenager, budding teenager. She's looking for a luxurious place, fantasizing the world, her dressing, her lipstick, her nails. She didn't like the house in Glasheen. She did not like the house in Glasheen. And many of us would not have liked the house in Glasheen if we live in 2022 and we can't do our little phone, because that's just what everybody's doing right now. But this is the lady's reality, and she's offering a service. 5 years, not 5 days, of caring for somebody else's child. Not 5 weeks, not 5 months. 5 years of caring for somebody else's child that she does not even say have an ongoing relationship with, because she has married into a different family by now. The lady says we were struggling. All of us were struggling. Both Kernisha and the caregiver family were looking for her to be somewhere else. It seems to me like that family tried and they tried and they tried and they tried to look for help, but they took on more than they could handle, and they didn't have the resources to take care of that one more child. Not on that extended, long 5-year period. Not for 5 years. Not for 5 years. So many people dropped the ball on Kernisha to the point where it is very clear that the abductor has a very tight-knit family. Very tight-knit. But she is like a bird on a branch that they are giving rescue. And the people that she belongs to are saying, I don't have $5 to put on my phone to have a conversation with her. I don't have an extra bed. Okay, so me, I know I grew up a long time ago in Dominica, but when I grew up, my first few years, my first few years, let me tell you, tout moun teni ti kabanyo asi planche. Asi planche. Touti 12, touti morceau hard, ou ka feti kabanou. Asi planche. Eva ou ka dormi. Ou ka dormi. Ou ka manger. Paske sa maman ni mama ka baz enfant. What I have to eat, you eat. We don't have, we're going to, we'll make pap. We don't have together. We have flour and sugar. We will make pap. We'll make pumpkin soup. We will make all little broth sans balao. But all of us will eat together. Ou ka di fam la, ou pani kaban pou kou? Ou même grandmama, ou pani yo kaban pou kou? Sa ye, ki kaban la, pitet kaban la was not just for you. and you did not want to say. But even if ou pani yon baf towel, pour mette asiter, evanti pillowcase, put a few little shirts in the pillowcase. Many people dropped the ball on this little girl. That's right, Roseman. Le ou feti bagay pisani to ever ou pisse da kabanou. Wake up your backside and wash it and put it on the line. Let the sun hit it so that by the end of the day, you sleeping on a little dry bed. Uka di fam la, what are you telling her to do? What are you telling the stranger to do? You're telling the stranger, keep holding her. I don't want that job. What are you saying? I do not want that job is what you're telling this lady who ends up keeping this little girl for 5 years under very extreme, tight circumstances. This lady who, like she says, she prays for people. Her husband is a pastor. She's trying to do a good deed. But I don't think she thought it was going to last 10 years. Not 10, but 5 years. 5 years is a long time. 5 years is a very long time to spend time and to hold my child for me. The poor lady is on the radio. Kabele Curtis! $5. I don't have money for 5 years, my brother. You don't have $5, my brother, to put on your phone to call your child. Why you making child? Pouchi ou ka fe zanfan, eva ou ka di mo ou pani $5, not even to give it to her to eat. Pou kiye? Somebody else is feeding her, clothing her, getting her to school, getting her tutoring, trying to put a little religious, moral information in her. Before I move forward, I'm going to take some of your comments. Yeah, this made me very angry. And it made me feel, I felt very angry, very frustrated, very disappointed. Just, we can do better. So somebody says, they don't like, Kimmy says she does not like the past tense was. I'm with you, Kimmy. I was revolted by the she was. Sa ou konet moun pa konet. Sa ou konet tout dot moun pa konet. Ou ka di was. What is this with the was? Is there something we don't know that we need to know? Was is past tense. And I agree, the lady got tired. The family describes their living situation as very, very dire. Sorry, very dire, to the point where she might not even have internet access. And you're trying to care for, provide for a teenager in that environment. Of course, I'm fed up. Who goes to the welfare department twice if they're not fed up? Who's bawling Curtis if they're not fed up? Who goes to the grandmother and says, help us out if they're not fed up? And she's a human being. A human being who perhaps did not intend to care for the child this long. And I took note of when the dad said she transitions from child to pubescent human being. I took note of that. That for me was interesting. It seemed to be an anomaly. Like, it was kind of like, okay, I'm not sure why that was important in here, in this, what he had been talking about so far, kind of like a bleeding of the subconscious but that I'm not going to talk much about that piece right there. That's right. Heaviest. I have to breathe. I had to breathe a lot, man. I had to breathe a lot listening to this thing. Very, yeah, might just be her way of speaking, or it could also be a red flag. Lynette, I am with you. I feel irritated and frustrated and angry. From the beginning, the woman was more concerned about her husband. Well, of course, that's her primary responsibility, yeah? And again, that attachment and bonding that happens if a person is hearing, hey, I'm pregnant. As soon as you hear that, for the most part, you start connecting to the baby inside of you. Or if you have a baby come to you as a newborn, and you see them do all their little developmental milestones, there's a certain level of attachment that's very different than if a child comes to you, even if you adopted the child as an 8-year-old, as a 7-year-old. You hear many stories of adoptive parents who return the children back to DFACS, which is what we call it here, Department of Family and Children's Services, which is the equivalent of the welfare department. Many families bring them back when their behaviors become more than the family thinks they have to be able to support the child. Bishara says it's very concerning. There are too many different narratives out there. Question, did anyone actually witness the kidnapping? Well, from what the caregiver wife is saying, what the husband saw, which for us is where the story ends. You're right, Bishara. The story ends with, he's got her left hand around her neck and his cutlass in the air over her head. And then we hear that caregiver husband gets slashed with the cutlass. We don't hear, I didn't hear much more after that. Rosamond says, I concur that the ball was dropped as far as the child was concerned on several fronts. She's been abandoned. She has been abandoned. So she is what you call a perfect example of child abandonment and emotional neglect, child neglect. That family was doing some to put in some emotional support, but that was not a firm attachment. It was tenuous at best, because I hear anyway, of many attempts to change the situation from her, Kernisha herself, and from the family. I read somebody say, or that some friend of theirs was approached by the child to ask if they could adopt her. We also hear the caregiver mother say that she went to spend time. Jean-Dominique, it's time to revisit this idea, this spending time business. I heard the grandmother say, I wanted my child to come and spend 2 days with me, to come and spend some time with me. Children need homes, okay? They're not balls that we bounce around. Or go and spend time with your auntie over there. Come back here. You can do the first semester here with me, second semester over there, summertime you over there. That's a lot. That is a lot. What I hear is what I've heard many times as I've interviewed families who their kids are now in DFACS custody. DFACS is the welfare department. And the kids end up in foster care and they go from home to home to home to home to home to home. It's a recipe for disaster long term. It's a recipe for disaster, emotional and psychological disaster long term, and many other problems. Faridashin said the biological father was seen casually eating on day one of the search, and his demeanor is imprinted on my mind. Seen casually eating. I heard an interview, and in the tone of voice, one might infer that there's not much of an emotional attachment there. I'm not saying that for sure. I don't know him. But based on what the caregiver is saying, there does not seem to be much of a real attachment there. There's a lot of strong fantasy in the child's mind about him, but who goes for a day without calling their child or talking to their child? That's right, Jacqueline. What a web. What a web. Veli was wondering if he was the father so nonchalantly eating. His body language was not positive. A lot of men do that. They are sperm donors. Many people fail this child. Many people drop the ball. Faidashin said he seemed to have been more interested in his meal. Kimmy, you're right. She did not ask to come into the world. Hevis, you say we can all play Monday morning quarterback, and I can too, but I will refrain because my comments may be misconstrued as insensitive. I agree that if what the caregiver wife is saying is true, if what she's saying is true about having made several attempts to come to the welfare department to ask for help because their family system was breaking down. Shas. It was breaking down. Help. Yes, we'll call you back. No callbacks. We must first find out if the adoption was legal or usual local style where a child was removed to a home without any form of vetting. Well, from what I've heard, there was no formal adoption. It cannot have been a formal adoption if the welfare wasn't involved, there was not an attorney involved. And before you do that kind of move, you need to do a home evaluation. Dr. Simone Diero says 10,000 views this time. Share the live, y'all. Share the live. When Dr. Simone's question is, when will the authorities engage our professionals for a strategic plan to address the mental health crisis in Dominica? There is a mental health crisis in Dominica. And I am not sure when, where, or how people decided they were going to stop talking about what they needed in Dominica. I am not sure. All I know is I am not part of that crowd. We need a stronger mental health system on the island. And it does not take moving the earth to get it done. Okay? It does not take moving the earth to get it done. So what do we do with this, y'all? Like, what do we do with this? Where do we go from here? Look, I have some recommendations. You know how when you grew up, they said, patiwe boudin, evemete pie. What that means, what the old people meant by that was, don't remove your intestines and replace it with straw. Family first. If we have a small house, yes, the 10 of us can live in the small house, in the tiny house. Look, people even trying to copy our tiny homes situation. Right now, rich people want to live in tiny homes. If that's all we have, all of us make do with what we have. You don't need an extra bed for your daughter's child. Your daughter you lose in such a, what you're saying is a really weird way. I don't know what the story is, even with the mother. So the caregiver wife is correct when she says not having a bed is not an excuse. But everybody's giving this lady excuses and leaving her to care for somebody else's child. If Curtis, well, let me not call the man name. Well, you know, there's Curtis in cottage, there's Curtis to part too, comme ça. If the father is really doing or not doing what this lady says he's doing or not doing, Curtis, and if Curtis is a representation of the many men who do this stuff in Dominica, it's time to wrap up your penis and put it in a bag. Wrap it up. Just wrap it up. Zip it up. And leave people's children alone. Stop madness. If you don't want the responsibility of a child, if you know you cannot afford caring for a child, zip it up. Put it in a bag. Leave people's children alone. There's this notion on the island about make a child for me. I want a child. Give me a child. Make a child for me. They haven't dated you. They haven't courted you. I want a child. Make a child for me. Give me a child. One guy I knew, relatively young guy. I just heard the story a couple weeks ago. He is propositioning a young lady and says to her, I want you to make a child for me. Thankfully, she had enough common sense and had been raised right and taught well to ask, what in the world are you talking about? Make a child for you. What does that mean? Oh yeah, make a child for me. So she said she went along with the game and she said, well, okay, and then what? And then what? He said, he had the gumption to say, oh, well, depending on how things go, after you make the child for me, depending on how things go, maybe we can become boyfriend and girlfriend eventually. So, where did that young man learn that kind of reasoning? Where did he learn that kind of reasoning? Make a child for me, and we might or might not become boyfriend and girlfriend. When? Eventually. So, I laughed. Are you mad? The Africans say, are you mad? If you are not yet ready to become a proper parent to a human being, leave the person's child at their home. Pass the girl straight. What is that saying about our men? What is that saying about our men? And many of us have this experience. Jis mwen, le biological papa, yo ka vini, yo ka plante fleur kon mwen, ebe yo ka escape. and leaving the responsibility of the flower on random people like this couple. Talking about, I don't have $5 to even call her. Are you mad? It is time to evolve or die. When I say die, that's figurative language for like just surrender. Evolve or just give up already. Evolve or just admit Dominic Enfant way. It is time to evolve. The social welfare system. I'm saying plural, social welfare systems, because I'm also including the legal system, the justice system. Was it last night? I never knew this. I learned that abortion is illegal in Dominica. Yeah, hooray, hooray, hooray. We love the Lord. We love God. Abortion is illegal in Dominica, regardless of the circumstances. Regardless of the circumstances. Okay, hooray! Hooray for us! Hooray! Clap for us! Clap for us! What are you doing when they're born? What are you doing for them when they're born? What are you doing for Kernisha now that she's here? Welfare system and justice system and legal system. What are you doing? Family goes to you and tells you, this is not even my child. At that point, welfare system, you have to step in. You have to step in. You have to step in. This ad hoc business we do, go by your auntie, go by your nenen, go by your nenen, husband, cousin, brother, sister, where nobody's keeping their hands on the kids. It's not in our best interest. This is vai. Oh, it's not on my hands. Somebody else is taking care of them. It's not the way. We must evolve or simply surrender and say, we're going to Enfant way. This is a recipe for poverty intergenerationally. What does that mean? You forbid the abortion on the front end. Hooray for you. Child is born. Family cannot take care of child. We start bouncing them around. Their education gets interrupted. Their training as moral and righteous human beings gets interrupted. 20 years down the line, they're doing the same thing because we've let them remain in these very, very precarious, unhealthy, unsupportive situations where the things they get exposed to, we ourselves too poor quit to talk about. I miss the days. I'm telling you, I miss the days when welfare and youth division, they wouldn't let us even come to Roseau. They would leave Roseau or Carib Reserve, Kalinago territory. They would leave St. Joe, those workers would, and they would come to our little village and camp for weeks. I'm talking about people like Giftus John and Mr. Bontiff and Worrell Sanford that I saw as a little girl in Cottage. Y'all remember that? In Finn House. For weeks and weeks they were there. teaching, training, infusing skills into the young people at the community level. At the community level. Now, I don't know if that's still happening. I am not judging because I don't know. If it's happening, let me know it's happening. If it's not happening, go back to it because it worked. It produced people like me and Mervyn Paul and Mr. Richard White. So, it does not look good. I am not one to criticize, but this does not look good. If this is a reflection of what's happening underneath the surface, I'm telling you, it's evolve or become irrelevant. Here's another recommendation, y'all. In a culture like ours where we poke it, but I'm going to say it in Creole, menue me coke. I have to say it like that for them other people not to understand what I'm saying. And I don't want us to look English. Nou poquit, mais nous aimons coquet. And bacchanal. And siwo, mais nous viciez. We are pretentious. We're evasive. We have tricks. To handle all that viciousness and our natural passion for the physical, when the rubber hits the road, we become judgmental. Oh, not me now. Oh, damn, look. And so we leave a lot of kids stranded because of that kind of way. That might have worked in the past, although I doubt it. But I promise you, we must evolve or surrender. Just surrender. And you call it quits. We have a thing where we are the conservative, righteous in the daylight, but we're heathens and hedonistic in the darkness. It's going to help us if we look at some of those poquit laws we have on the books. Or if we're going to keep the poquit laws, we have to put environmental safety nets around our people, around our young people. So when they get pregnant, they have resources, they have support. We don't want them to have the abortions. We must provide them a safety net because biology is going to do its thing. Biology is going to do its thing. I heard this lady, Delia Weeks Coffee. I want to talk to this lady. I heard this lady almost crying last night on a show, talking about how hard she worked to try to get the same so-called conservative, poquit people of our country to sign a petition to extend the age of consent from 16 to 18. Is it done? Mm-mm. 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 What are you saying? What are you saying then? I just read an article today of a young man who violated a child, and his consequences were essentially get off Go home and read some books. Go pray to the Lord. We got you. You're okay. We must evolve or just surrender. Just give up already. We must evolve and go higher, because that kind of stuff, come city, we're too close to civilization. Punuka still face the bagay. It's wrong, and it is stifling the creativity of your people. It's not correct. It is very harmful long term. I know we have at least one residential facility for kids, second chance or a second chance, something like that. But that, it's not enough, clearly. It's not enough. They need more resources. They need more support. The problem is not going to go away. The times that we're living in, these problems are exploding. Plus, you have laws on the books. You have laws on the books that say you must bring every child conceived to life. The problems are going to keep exploding. There are going to be more and more kids emotionally destroyed because you have your men on your radios talking about how 13, 14, and 15, they're prime targets for adult attention. If that is going to continue to be okay, you need to have the safety nets. The problem is not going to go away. These problems are not going to disappear. They're not going to go away. They're going to get worse. I have yet to hear somebody of import, somebody with a voice that echoes. I am still waiting to hear somebody with a voice that echoes on the island stand up and categorically condemn the stuff I heard on the radio station. I'm still waiting for it. Ramona says, can we talk about the trauma of losing your mother with no explanation? Who has investigated this case? You have a missing person and everybody's just like, oh, her mother missing, we? They say they see her un nom blanc dans car. Oh, last time she called, they had un voiture un nom blanc. And that's where it ends? What is going on? Like, I lost my mother at 21 years old in a situation where I never saw her body again. It took me 16 years to wrap my head around it. And it wasn't time that did it. It was treatment that did it. The welfare system cannot leave children in the hands of untrained adults. You cannot just say, okay, you have them already, hold them. You don't know what's happening in that home. What if they don't have good parental skills? What if somebody in there is addicted to alcohol and comes home and beats on somebody else? What if? We have to do what's called diligent searches of relatives. You do a diligent search for relatives. This child has a father who, like mine, absconded, but at least my father's sisters, my little auntie Marjorie, somebody asked me the other day, is Marjorie, are you related to Marjorie? Yes, Marjorie's my auntie. Every Saturday, my auntie would look for me and give me this 2 tanya to go up with. Do a search for the other relatives on both sides of the family before just surrendering and saying, hold them, you have them already, hold them. I feel infuriated. I feel infuriated and disappointed because we can do better. Heavies, trust me, I'm coming for the women. Heavy said, Doc, it goes both ways. A man cannot have a child with you if you don't say yes. Except si maweu eve envioleu, you participated in that event. I'm coming to the women because I'm telling you, there's a part of me that's like, I mean, I get why a lot of people are like, they give up, they give up, they give up. I get why a lot of people have thrown their hands in the air and said, I just drinking water and minding my business. I get that, but that is not a problem. That's not a solution. That's a dead end. That's a surrendering. That's a decision to die. That's a decision to give up. That's a decision to, okay, we're going to unfold way. We're going to implode. It's time for the welfare system, I'm going to say, to get the resources that it needs to do the level of work it needs to do, because poor quitness, pretending it's not happening, burying the head in the sand, oh, it's so nice, life is sweet. Not sweet. It was not sweet for Kernisha, and there are many kids that it's not sweet for. The welfare department needs enough resources to be able to recruit, to start actually keeping an inventory, a list, a directory of potential foster parents that they have trained and or are willing to train to take kids in, as opposed to the vai, oh, hold them, say on sac, you hold them. You have them already, hold them. Give foster parents, after you recruit them, training. And if you're going to place a child in the home, these families need a monthly allowance. They need a monthly allowance to help them. It's one more mouth to feed. Their clothes to be bought. Extracurricular things to be done. Healthcare needs. There's no way that a second chance, the residential program, can house all of the kids that need the support. Train families. Advertise. How are we going to find them? Advertise. Advertise. Buy ads on the radio. Buy Facebook ads. Train them once you recruit them. I mean, that lady had a good heart. She was willing to do it. But clearly, to me, this lady didn't have the training to deal with all of that extra stuff. Maybe some parental skills training might have helped. Maybe a little monthly allowance might have helped to ease the pressure. The lady is describing this like, pressure on her family system as she's trying to hold for the state. She's holding for the state somebody else's child that everybody in the family from this kid's bloodline is saying no to. Let's finish our vinyas radio my child, my child. Oh, man. We can do better. And when you're wrong, take your wrong. You cannot be wrong and strong. If you made a mistake, yes, I made a mistake. This kind of work, again, is accomplished using a wraparound model. You have a stranded child. There's another stranded child, a bird on a branch, flying from home to home. And the adults around her forming the fool. She exists in her little fantasy world. Of course she likes her little makeup. Of course she has to aspire to keep her little sanity. This little girl should have already had a psychological evaluation. Psych evaluation. A therapist, a case manager, a foster home that has been vetted, evaluated. That's how other people do it. You can do it too. I am done with, it's just nonsense. It's nonsense to say, oh, we don't have. You don't have, you create. You don't have it yet. Make it happen now. There's enough money to be building houses for people who haven't earned the houses. Put some of this money towards saving the children. Those guamun that going into houses pre-made, that didn't have to sweat nothing for houses, save some of that money and put it towards, invest it in the future of the country. That's enough. That is enough. If we're talking about nation building, you have to go to the source, go to the root. Your children are the root. We're about to check out. We're about to check out. So who and what are we training to take over once we check out? Think we're going to be there forever? Ebe madam bueno. Ask me about it based on my year last year. I have the answer for you. No. And who knows the seeds, those little flowers, those little children that we see her mother disappear. She don't have anybody for her. Father not even studying her. How do you know what she's here for? How do you know why she is on the planet in your island today? I'm going to take some of your comments and then I'm going to, you all think I am emotional now? Yeah, this was the professional part of the presentation. What just happened there? Me talking about cocaine and alveoli, that was the clinical part of the presentation. Hivis, you say it goes both ways. A man can't have a child without a woman. You say it's not the biological father's fault. I think you want to say it's not just the biological father's fault. The whole village failed the child. The whole system failed the child. I know many children who grew up without a biological dad. I'm one of those. But I'm telling you, I had a stepdad who treated me like his, who groomed me like his. There are many people who don't grow up with a father figure in their home. I get that. But that is out of order. It is out of order. Si nous voulons dire, say we are so holy, no abortion. These things must be addressed too. If we are so righteous, these things must be addressed too. If you have a family in need, mon cher, blood is blood. We have to look out for each other. Once you see you start losing this kind of natural affection for your own kind, you were talking about implosion of a culture. If you, and as close as grandmother, I don't want to hear more. You don't have a bed? Look, what I'm doing with the dad is I'm the dad. If you want to be a father, you're a man or a woman that's engaging in cocaine. Because all of us know a child could result. So anytime I make the decision and I'm of childbearing age to cocaine, a child could result. So if you don't want child, or if you don't have money for child, nom fam, keep it zipped up, put it in a purse, put it in a bag. Leave people alone. We cannot walk around with this level of failure to take responsibility for what we are saying are our future. What kind of future are you creating? I believe the children are our future. So if I'm not taking care of my children, what kind of future have I created? Karma must come calling. The role of local government should play an active role in community service rather than they sit in an office all day wasting resources. There's got to be more community engagement. I am sorry. I don't know what's happening now. I cannot speak on it. But there's got to be more engagement within the small villages, within the communities. I'm telling you, we formed, when these guys came and stayed in the village, we formed the cottage youth movement. We learned leadership skills. We learned how to run our meetings. We learned how to take minutes. I second that. We learned to come together. Everybody was on the same page. Whether or not your mother had money, your father had money, or you were a stray or a bird on a branch. So these kinds of programs equalize the playing field and give every soul on the island the opportunity to reveal why they came to the planet, man. This is oppressive and stifling if we're not providing these opportunities. If they have to leave country to come Rosa to do it, you're still causing a problem, you know. Or at least it's an incomplete solution because not all of them have money to come to the city. And if they're coming, you got to have the resources as the department to pay for their transportation. Because I remember we did that. Eventually, we went to the leadership training courses in the city. They would pay for our little bus. And we'd ride up and go learn about psychology. That's the first place I learned about psychology. Heidi says, even the police officers should be held accountable. At what time did they start their search? Look, Heidi, that's part of my disappointment. I heard the lady say, those guys, or some guy, or one guy, I don't know how many, said they're not going in darkness. Ramona says, I thought he meant she was skinny when she came to them, but then they nourished her. No, what I heard was she started coming fat, as in she started becoming a woman. Her body started changing. You know, the part he talked about that was perverting to me. Like, why look at her body when we're trying to find her? You're describing her body. Say it, red flag, please, so I know I'm not crazy, please. Miss Leatham, you are not a crazy woman. What you are is energetically connected. What you are is energetically connected. It's not her way of speaking. They know more. They're withholding information. I don't know for sure, but I am not surprised ever. I'll tell you, one of the things that has happened to me after working in mental health for 26 years is I do not trust human beings until I see evidence in action. I do not trust the words of human beings. I don't. Until I see evidence. I have learned not to trust human beings' words. Mervyn says there seems to be indications that this child needed dedicated attention from very early. Of course. Because she's got medical problems. She's got a skin condition that is so bad that the grandmother said she was pooing. The bigger issue is who picked that up or why that wasn't picked up. And herein lies the need for professionals at the community and school levels. We got to do better. We got to do more. I'm telling you all, it's not that hard either. It's really not that hard. And if it seems hard, all you got to do is Google how to do it. You will see so many templates for how to do this. You don't need to spend a dime. But it has to be a coordinated effort because it requires a lot of resources. But we cannot pretend that it's not necessary at that level. Clearly, it's necessary at this level. I'm saying the burying the head in the sand, the pretending, oh, it's a one-off. It is not a one-off. Some of the therapists, I'm telling you, are at their wits' end, overwhelmed, y'all, overwhelmed. The need is so great. It's so great. Pretending, that's not the answer. Garvin said, what I got from the child to puberty is when he was speaking about she's starting to answer back when they correct her. He's saying he understood the rude mouth because she was now becoming a teenager, no longer the same little child. Kimmy said, I'm wondering that so many red flags and no one responded. It takes a village to raise a child. But, Kimmy, if we have become so detached, back to Patiwe Boudin Evemete Pai, to the point where we got di famla upani kaban, konsa your grandchild cannot come with you. And you yourself know you didn't grow up on Kaban. At that age, my guess would be this person was raised at some level, because this person's about my age or younger. At some point, ou couche asi Kaban pisa, kosa wakadi mwen, zanfan, gwa zanfan pasa vini, dormi a la kayou, jwen nou, paske ou pani Kaban. That, to me, that's not holding enough. That's a shirking of the responsibility. Let somebody else do it. Everybody failed this kid, man. The case is complex. It is complex. And this event anything that happens in my life, in your life, that causes a lot of internal response must be examined. Don't just chuck it on the side. You examine it. You look at it to see what is happening. Why am I feeling so much? Is there something I can do differently next time? How do I fix this so that at least I mitigate the problems 2 years down the road if it happens again? This is why we must talk about this and talk about it, sensibly. And we have a right to be angry about this. We have a right to be disappointed. We have a right to feel frustrated. A right now to feel anxious if you're a parent on the island. The caregivers gave as best they knew and must be recognized. They must be recognized. 5 years. Come on. 5 years of begging and pleading everybody else for some help. They don't have the skills to deal with the kid. They don't have enough resources. She's a teenager. They're now incompatible because the home they're living in doesn't have internet, Wi-Fi. Kimmy says her spirit was broken from birth. Like, seriously, what do you think this child has come on the planet to teach us? Because the caregiver father is right, She's having massive impact because she's touching people around the world and asking us to reconsider certain things. All of us has our mission on the planet. And sometimes to the eyes, it looks crazy and weird and like, oh my God, how horrible. The entire case is built on preacher word that Kian took her into the bushes. We need a timeline since the various accounts contradict each other and they blow the timeline. I know c'est pas moi yon tête mon café mon mal parce que mon pa kata na yen please ki. But then again, I don't know. Maybe he lost. I don't know. Did he lose consciousness? Did he lose hearing? I don't know. What we do know is that the story ends where, yes, he had his hand around her neck, cutlass in the air with his right hand, and then caregiver dad comes out and tussles, tries to stop him, but he gets slashed. So okay, I don't hear anything else. Like, okay, so did he run out? Did he run out left? Did he run out right? Did he grab her, pull her? I'm not hearing anything else. I don't know. Yolanda, this culture will break if we don't get our act together and stop mucking around. Because right now we are mucking around. It will break. It will implode. And I'm going to tell you at the end why it will implode. If we keep this one thing up, this one thing we're doing of late, that's going to be the straw that will break that camel's back unless we do something about this. And I'm telling you, you don't need anybody's permission to start doing. I don't need anybody's permission to start talking. We should not lose sight of the fact that caregivers themselves may have issues of their own. So caring for a child who needs help increasingly became more challenging. That's why they were screaming for help. That's why they're screaming for help. We we have systems in communities for reasons to support the individual, to support the family. We need systems. We pay taxes. We appoint people to take care of these systems for us. These people have to listen when we say, hey, you might not be seeing it from your vantage point, from your perspective, but I'm telling you, I'm feeling the heat. Back to the idea of perspective. And so when the people we appoint to take care of our systems for us, cannot see, what should we do? We should yell louder. We yell louder. We don't go quiet. That's not a response. That's not an efficient response. We start creating our own and we make them useless. If you're not here to support me, then I'm just going to work outside of you. And you now become irrelevant. But if you're claiming that children are our most precious, and this is the best we can do for them, Rosamond says the people tried, but they were not coping with. It's a lack of support. Man, that's the foundation must give in. If the pressure is relentless and the burden's increasing, she is now becoming child to adolescent. She becomes mouthy now. So where she was, do whatever I say, now she got something to tell me. How many of you would be, oh, I can't wait to keep taking care of her? Come on now. Plus these strong religious beliefs. I'm telling you, this is not like regular. This is a very, there's deep religiosity in that system, in that family system. Everything is the devil's fault. I still waiting to see the devil. Look the devil there. You all know that song? The devil there. Look the devil there. Oh diabla. Where's the devil? Show us the devil. The devil has been very impactful in this situation. Well, please bring us to the devil. Or bring him. Where is the devil? That's getting all of this blame. Plus, you have these expectations of girls that our families continue to hold. Like that right there, like this, I know. The trauma of losing your mother. At least I had an explanation, y'all, and I'm telling you, it was horrendous. And just because the child is not verbalizing it, does not mean she's not in deep suffering. In deep suffering. Moving from home to home is the worst thing for a child. It's one of the worst things for a child. It destroys a child's sense of safety and predictability and belongingness, which are fundamental. They're fundamental to shaping a healthy personality. And home to home with people who telling you, they're calling your father in, maybe even in front of you, and you hearing your father say he doesn't have money, he don't have a $5 to put on his phone, he already not coming for you. He telling you he can't even call you on the phone because he don't have money. Why you have a child if you can't call a child on the phone? I'm sure they make home visits, but the thing is with her, she was not within the system because they told the family, hold her. Hold her. Hold her. What does that mean, hold her? Yes, we may have to open a facility there. And the mental health system must be taken seriously. We cannot ignore the mental health needs. So yet, when was it? Yesterday or whenever, day before, we talked about the boy. She's got deep mental health needs as well. Look, we need a drug, alcohol, and mental health rehab center in Dominica. We have plenty money. We have plenty money because we're building more houses. Divert some of the funds to take care of the people. If you're not blood and placed in a home, like the likelihood of being treated well is slim to none. It's slim to, be realistic. We've seen this happen to kids, and you might even be one of those. When you were even living with a relative, a blood relative, their kids sitting down prim and proper while you wash. C'est qui lave les assiettes, c'est qui lave hand, you sweeping the yard, you combing everybody here. Yolanda says, mentally ill people have been neglected. Just beyond, with no shame almost. With no shame, we have neglected among the most vulnerable of all people. There must be policies and procedures in place to take care of our mentally challenged individuals in a better way, in a more systematic way, in a way that other people use that works. It is not that hard. And it is past due. It is past due. It makes very little sense to just complain and not do a thing about it. It's a cycle that needs to be broken. Mother disappears, now daughter disappears. Yes, Ramona. If this tool of yours that you've decided you must use is producing a child or a product that you don't want, in a country where you cannot get rid of the product, look, wrap it up. Wrap it up. I'm talking to the men now, but I got some words for the sisters, because si pani suti we I pani vole. Si pani suti we I pani vole. And many of us women have colluded with men on the island to help them take advantage of us and our children. Claudia says they're not wrapping it up because they are usually sleeping with people they're not supposed to. That's when they should even be wrapping it up. If you know you're not supposed to be doing it, wrap it up. Leave no trace. Leave no evidence. It is sociopathic. It is very destructive to know for sure you don't want. If a packer wrap it up, you know you're going to be the one that's saying, I don't have money, I don't have time. You will not wrap it up. What does that say about you? Jacqueline says people are blaming the police, but what about the mental health department? There was a very good system years ago within mental health nurses, with mental health nurses in the various districts where patients were cared for and were under control. That is no more. Why is it no more? Did it stop working? I'm like, if something isn't broke, why are you going to fix it? If it's not broken, why are you trying to fix it? If that was working, did you replace it with a new and better system? Or it was just removed or stopped? Why? Is the problem going away? Nobody's going to have brains that don't work like most other brains anymore? Like it's bread they're making. Look, Franklin has a suggestion. Franklin, also I'll get you with Franklin D. We need to go for me. Franklin said, can we raise money to pay Curtis' phone? Pascal. Apparently, Curtis spending $5 within 5 years pour sa kids enfants. A whole year passes. Ou pas ka kids enfants. Ah. As a child in La Pointe, there were people with mental illness and they never abducted any child. Times have changed. The level and the intensity of everything is higher now. So we cannot maintain the mindset that we are still living in 1910 while we have 2022 problems. That is correct. Havis. Mentally ill people on a whole, they're not violent people, you know, against people as a whole. They're not very violent. They do stuff, but they're just doing their stuff. They're responding to stimuli in their brain. They're hearing voices. But for the most part, they're not out there kidnapping people. Usually it's your antisocial personality, your serial killer type that will, you know, you can achwe with bon sang, ever you can gade, you can still guiye bao. Those are the people to watch. Franklin ebe Kiki B not on the plan, eh? Kiki B he pass the plan sa 0. Amma says 70% of Dominican men are like that. Look, based on this, 70% of Dominican men are like that. If that is true, Amma, that means that our men have absconded their mission to protect us, to provide for us, to preserve our families, and to preserve our dignity. Roseman said, Comment maman dit, mettez toli la ada on tout ever for me. That is the treatment. Look, my auntie doesn't play, you know. Mettez toli ada on tout ever for me. Si ou connaît ou pas les enfants. Las abawa se femme Dominique ever toli zo. Chen toli ou apostle, hadu, porshu, si ou connaît ou pav les femmes là, ou ben ou pav les enfants. Because if not, I'm telling you, you come off as a sociopathic person. Patricia says, I was one of those poor children and most of my seedlings and siblings. I never had a father, so when I heard he didn't play his part, I felt I'm telling you, Lene, I felt it. I just was like, ooh, comme si vous besoin voler, you know? Men need to stand up for your children. And if you're not going to stand up, that's okay. Chen bagayu and porshu, mete yada on two. Like Roseman said, that for me. Keep it entertained and occupied elsewhere. But I'm coming to the ladies, Pastor. Comme dit, si pani sutiwe, I pani vole. You must remember who you are. Stupidity must be illegal too. I wish. We call ourselves a Christian and God-fearing nation. And this is our stat. This is our state. For real? That's what that looks like? Many kids go through this. Many kids go through this abandonment. And back in the day, again, you had the idea of patiwe boudin mete pai, meaning families take care of each other. You had a godmother, and the godmothers and the godfathers really took their jobs seriously, who would raise kids if there was abandonment happening. This is 2022. It does not need to be done that way anymore. It is the responsibility of the people we appoint to manage these things to provide proper welfare, social welfare programs and systems to cup, to contain, to have a net under a system where you've already said abortion is illegal. If you have the gumption to say it's illegal and the holiness to say it's illegal, take care of the results by placing systematically something that works for those that must come here parce que, comme on dit, nous aimons coquet, nous aimons bacchanal. That's right. He said he don't have money on his phone. But my God, okay, this weekend you don't have money on your phone. Next weekend, you're not getting anything. Comment ka vivre à présent? How are you living? How are you living? You don't have a friend, an auntie, an uncle that can give you a little 5 minutes to call your child. She calling daddy, 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 daddy. Oh, wow, man. Andrea said, you ever heard the saying, bush fan c'est pour manger? Exactly. That's what our elders meant. Look, they had all of these sayings. These elders of ours, they did their job. Mokadiu said, nous savent. We fumbled. We are fumbling. We're in the midst of fumbling and we're losing this game, except if we readjust, reset our strategies. They had sayings like bush fan oblige manger. That means if my granddaughter just lost her mother, my God, what I have, like Bray and Nancy, we have 2 plantain, you will get 3/4, I will get 1 1/4. Drink it with some water, go and sleep. Here's a hug, I love you. Let's twine, let's twibiche, let's bataille together. You telling me you don't have a bed? You have an extra bed? Look, we've gotten, fellas, you all have to listen. Please, please listen. I know a lot of you don't like to listen to women talk. Zokadi, let big man talk. A lot of your women are giving up on you. Will not touch anyone with a 10-foot pole after her experiences. They're very immature, she says. She has a few friends in her circle that are mature, but men at home are unable to have mature relationships. And that does not appeal to 2022 women anymore. It's not enough. You need a person that is there with you, for you. If a woman is going to surrender a lot of her privileges, let me tell you, if a woman is going to be, lovey-dovey with you, what's in the deal for her? What's in the package for her? What is she getting out of that agreement? Uka hustle family down. Yes, I love you. I want you. I this, I that. And the baby shows up and you're talking about you don't have $5 on your phone to call. Look, somebody says the verbiage and all of this is all wrong. No one wants to say it, but I will. Have you tell you what your mouth? Look, Facebook user, you are not the only one. Because again, I don't trust human beings anymore until I see action. So I don't believe stories. I don't believe the first thing that comes up out of the person's mouth. I accept it for what it is. I cannot say, oh, that's not true. But neither do I believe it right off the bat. We have no idea, except if we were to talk to her and if she were willing to tell us. Somebody said, was the wife caregiver jealous? We don't know. I don't know. I do know that a spidey part of my clinical training went off when out of nowhere I'm hearing about her puberty experience. What? Look, Facebook user, there's so many variables we're not looking at that we don't know enough to even look at. But wise people keep every possibility in mind. Wise people keep every possibility in mind. And that's what you do until you know otherwise. You're not forming any decisions about it. You're not saying, yes, that must be, but you're not ruling it out either. That's right. See, kudos to Youth Development Division. Formative training in my life. Formative experience in my life. I don't think I would be a psychologist if I hadn't interacted with Tony and these guys and Miss Blaise and Amoy and Mr. Bontev and these people learning leadership skills. They kept their hands on us. They kept their hands on the youth of the country. Elizabeth says, most DA men don't like to take their children. And not supporting them. I know a man that have 2 girl children and want to see. That's the look. Emma says they had, you had men's fellowship and scouts. That culture has been wiped out. Why? If it's not broken, why remove it? If it's working, why remove it? And we ought to know that these things are valuable to protect, to build, to heal, to shape young people. Yolanda says, I never adopted that craziness making my child sleep by everyone. Listen, that business about spend time. Yes. Sometimes circumstances make us do things that we don't want to do. But what you have, it's got to be all of us eating it. Okay? Heavy says, that changed with twerking, with music. You have no hope. Only the elite few have options. Well, I'm telling the rest of we the people, it is time to take a clear-minded look at what's in front of you and to start making decisions that are in your best interest. Okay? Start making decisions that are in your best interest. You are wise, you are smart, and what you don't know, GTS. Google that, finish it for yourself. Influencer says, we have had to hold back on a lot of the programs of the Youth Development Division on a number of face-to-face interventions, but there's certainly more room for improvement. I would love to engage you and Mr. Paul on some dialogue later. Yes, C's, you have my yes. You have my yes. You have my yes. I was talking to Melvin Paul recently. A burden on his heart is the young man of the country. Who's teaching these men? Who's training these men when these so-called sperm implantation donors abscond? Who's training them to be men? Men need other men. Men need other men, you know. I know many boys were raised by strong women and they did well, but a mother can never be a father, you know. Natasha says, other than the fact that they kept saying she was, when asked, what message do you have for Keon? The husband addressed Keon saying he loved him, come back, etc. And almost as an afterthought, if you have the child, bring her back. If we already, c'est pas ça qu'il dit nous, il déjà ni non. What do you mean if? What do you know we don't know? What do y'all know that we don't know? Yolanda says, before being a nurse, I remembered the welfare officers used to come to my auntie's store with the kids and their foster parents. They would buy all their needs. If the child needed something, the foster parent would come to the store and take whatever the child needed. What is the process now? Kids are vulnerable. They don't ask us to be born, you know. And we have responsibilities, man. We have responsibilities. Okay. This is the part. These are my final words, right? Like this is where I really go into my feelings. So please forgive me because like I was really very upset listening to this. It left me with more questions than answers. Number one, I don't like the idea of this was, she was, as far as we know. She was a good child. She was this, she was that. What? I thought all you say he's not going to hurt her. So what do you mean was? What's happening? What is happening that we don't know about? Why she was? Please stop saying she was, and it might be just an idiosyncratic thing with the words, but like please knock it off with the was until we know for sure, until we have evidence. Number two, please mind me with all that spend time business. Spend time. I was going to tell her to spend time. She go and spend time. I want my grandchild to come and spend time. Elliot, look, like Yolanda was saying, you've got to be so careful who you allow access to your children. Because clearly, Mokadiu, people you think are regular people, they are not regular, Usap. They are not regular. They are not regular. And I am telling you, that is why I do not trust human beings until I see their actions. Until I see their actions. I cannot trust anymore based on what I have seen and heard. The person looks just like you and me. If only you knew their thoughts when you start talking to them and writing your notes and having to keep your face straight. It's not the spend time of the old days where you used to send your child to your grandparents, your auntie, your cousin, your this, your that. It's a new world. People don't have as much natural affection, like I said, even for their own blood, much less for your child. Yes, they're excited. They want to go over to their friend's house. Watch it. Tell the friend, come over to your house. Stop it with the spend time business. And I know some of what I said tonight is going to hurt some people because I actually mean for it to hurt some people because some of us, we don't change. Our brain in particular doesn't change except if it feels some pain. The brain doesn't like to do new things. The brain doesn't like new ideas because that means it's got to work harder to take it in and to remember it. It prefers going based on what it's learned. No pain though, no gain. So this one is for the ladies. From what I'm seeing and hearing of late, it burdens my heart to say. From what I'm seeing and hearing of late from the mouths of men, from the legal system, that as of today, I read an article where a man who had violated a child He's off. Scot-free. From what one of you just posted about a biological father who's looking at his two girls as fresh meat for him. It's time for you, women on the island, to face reality. It's you that has to wake up. It's the women who have to wake up now. First. Because let me tell you, an abuser doesn't give a lick about what you think. They already don't care about you. Why should they change? Why should they change? What's in it for them to change? And give up rights and access to your bodies? Why would they change if there are no consequences in the legal system? What incentive does a man in Dominica have right now to change his behavior towards a 13, 14, 15-year-old? If he knows he gets off, it's not on him. I think you are largely on your own. Now, I'm taking away the 30% that one of you put in there. 30% of the good men that still stand with us and love us, respect us, appreciate us, care for us and their children. Fellas, I'm not talking about you. But at this point, this person might be right. Like, we need some stats. We need some stats. We need a couple surveys to see how the men on the island think. What is acceptable? What is not? What would you do if you were in this circumstance? Would you say yes or no? If she give it to me, I'll take it. Okay. Woman, girl, I think right now in 2022, on June 16, 2022, you are largely on your own. Take it or leave it. A lot of us, when we see what's happening, we complain. Tap, 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 tap. And tomorrow they come up, they walk up to you, and you're like, why are you so funny? Or we see it and we don't want to talk because we're afraid that on the outside, they're going to put our own secret outside because our husband's out there, our boyfriend's out there doing this stuff. I'm telling you, it's just my realization. You are on your own. Largely, you are on your own. I think that women in Dominica, we have held on to the idea that we must be kind, patient, passive, vulnerable, which is completely feminine energy, right? We have held on. But our men have stopped doing their masculine energy piece to complement what you're giving them. And a strong man provides. A strong man, a masculine man, provides, protects. He doesn't just leave his child for somebody else to take care of. And he preserves his family. If you have the blessing and the honor to have a child come from somebody's womb for you, give me a child, give me a child, give me a child. You preserve that. You do your best to create a relationship with the mother that is stable and lasting and ongoing. How will you keep this relationship with the sister? How will you keep a proper, healthy relationship with her if you have sat at the feet of dysregulated men, traumatized men? I'm trying to be generous. Who have taught you that it's okay to ask a woman, give me a child, no. What? Still, this is happening? Still? Still, what is this? I think the other problem that the women on the island are, that's another mistake you're making is, see that nice sweetness, that feminine energy, that really is rightful, and is correct. You have gone too far with it. So you've become these tamed, docile doormats to men who are telling you, I do not care about you enough to be faithful to you. And not just that, I will go as far as cheating on you, not with one, and not even with other women your age. I want the young one. You have surrendered your juiciness to people who are not appreciating it. And you have the evidence for it. You have the evidence for it. You want to hear the evidence? Zoni Nomasi Radio Kadi is 13, 14, and 15. They're looking good. That's the evidence. The evidence that you are not being protected, and the evidence that your children are not being protected, which is the natural order of things for a masculine person to do. That is their natural, energetic tendency. Protect, provide, preserve, nurture, look out for, care for, train the best in us, teach us right from wrong. How can they teach us right from wrong when they're the ones doing the wrong? These are men in their distorted feminine. These are men who are taking advantage of. And so it shows up when your police say, Garçon is darkness, we are not going in bush in darkness to save your lost child. I know it's not all the police officers who say it, but that policeman that let that thought even leave his lips, it was a thought. Yeah, I can get that you're feeling a little nervous, but boss man, it's not that they train you for now. They don't train you for them things. You're not going in bush in darkness. All little man cottage, all little man Toto know how to handle bush. You telling me you can't go in bush parce que what? Is darkness? Sorry, aux enfants, you are Kernisha. You're not going in bush, it's darkness. What is that? What is that? And tomorrow on the street, you wanna, oof. It's showing up in men thinking they can give you $20. Look at the money. Look at the change. Look at the change. They can give you a little $20 and keep you on the hook. I like you, Keep you on the hook for cocaine while they go home at night to chauffeur their wife. And they even have the audacity to tell you, don't call them after 9 o'clock. I have my wife. I tell you already, don't call me, I tell you already, don't call my house, I with my woman, See, pani suti we, pani vole. If you don't think you are worth a committed, proper relationship, and you say yes to that agreement, you're not a child. You have just colluded. You just make complot with a person to destroy you. I am not hearing all of them man that on the radio they're talking about. It's not enviolé, they're envioling. It's their mouth they're using. At some point, you are cooperating with these people to destroy you and your children. You want to know how it's showing up again? It's showing up with them preaching on Sunday. preaching on Sunday to you and to the rest of the community about how abortion is horrible. Sunday morning, Musav, you can preach that. Sunday night, they in your phone. Sunday night, they in your phone. Hey, I'm feeling a little stressed out. I can come over now. They just finished giving you lusty, you know. I can come over. They might have just baptized somebody in church Sunday. I'm coming over. That's how it's showing up. That's how weakness is showing up. That you're tolerating and you're saying yes to. It's showing up in your high schools, where you have your high school teachers grooming children, grooming them. You're so beautiful. I like you now. From the first day you set your foot in high school, I've had my eye on you. That's how it's showing up. I'll give you good grades. It's showing up in our laws that are remaining on the books that allow people, men like this guy today, who got off of violating a child with basically a slap on the wrist. Societies change when women, and I'm telling you, y'all, it's a burden potentially, depending on how you look at it, but it's the virtue of the feminine, it's the virtuous nature of the feminine that is able to check the masculine and say, no, this doesn't feel good for me, so I'm saying no to it. That's the part in us that is where culture starts elevating. Because this guy who comes to you has every right to use his tongue, his mouth, except if he handcuffs you and kidnaps you like he does that little girl. You get to say yes or no. What the women have to learn to do is to learn to negotiate situations that feel better for you. If what you need to feel safe in a relationship is for a man to put a ring on your finger before he takes off his whatever, send him to the ant's nest until he can give you what feels good for you. If you have to leave him, although you like him so much and your body is feeling him so much, that's what you do. Your fear of being alone cannot override your good judgment. Your fear of being alone cannot allow you to say yes to a situation that is destroying you and your children. We have gone too far into just taking it, tolerating it. Why are you doing this? It's 2022. You find out he did something to your daughter. She comes to you. She tells you this. It's not her fault. You cannot be blaming your children and your daughters for the problems and the mistakes that the men in your community heap on them. You have to stand up. You have to learn to use your voice to say no more. You have to go stand up in front of that magistrate's court and say, last week, with your placards, last week you got this guy off. We are not standing for it anymore. That's enough. No more. And watch how men rise. When you, feminine energy, learns to negotiate, learns to stand up, learns to say, no, not yet, not until I see A, B, C, D, E. And no, I'm not making child for you because I don't feel good about that. That's all you need. I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't feel comfortable with that idea. I appreciate. I know you like me like that. But I made a decision 10 years ago that unless a man comes home to my parents and asks for me properly, I'm not dating, I'm not going out, I'm not doing this. Whatever works for you. He cheats. I don't believe that just because he cheats the first time, that's an automatic leave. No, but we need some support. We need some help. We might need a therapist, y'all. But we're not just going to pretend as if this didn't happen or as if this is not happening. Why? Because we teach people how to treat us. I used to hear that when I was younger and I didn't understand it. But this is how you teach people how to treat you, by saying no to what doesn't feel good for you and yes to what does. And they can call you comparaison if they want. They can say you bad. They can say you mean, that girl bad, eh? You're going to stay alone by yourself. Listen to me. You think it's not better to be alone and happy than with another human being and you're feeling miserable and ashamed and uncomfortable, and they're not even making an effort to change and to do better? This is why I'm telling you, it's got to start somewhere. You have to start where you have power. And you have power in your yes. You have power in your no. And you have power in what you do to show people, oh, is bad you bad? Well, this is what I will do. Go do your stuff over there, but I'm going to be over here looking for somebody who actually can fit my energy. I'm going to be over here. If I'm going to be surrendering my power in this relationship and allowing you to lead me, how can I allow you to lead me down the path of destruction? How can I say yes to that? If you cannot give me what feels good for me, I'm going to say no, thank you. And I'm going to go continue to explore and examine who can make a good fit, a good mate for me. And I'm doing all of that before we making child. Because making child, what is that? Oh, yeah. Making child without the stability, at least the hope and the effort to create a stable unit for your child. What are you doing? Why are you condemning your child to this level of stress potentially? And why are you putting yourself in such a vulnerable position that now you always, whatever they do, you have to say yes to, because now we have a child and I'm worried for my child's future. So I'm going to stay and I'm going to take it. Meanwhile, you have a psychopathic man who's telling you he's 13, 14, 15. I like them. Everybody on the street telling you where they saw him. You can't beat him down, but there are things you can do. And it starts from the beginning. It starts from the beginning where you are vetting the people you say yes to. That is not on a man, because a man can say all what he wants. You have to say yes or no. And if he violates your no, you take him to the courts, even if they're giving you kwas kaka, verdicts, but at least you stood up for yourself. And when they give you these quaskaka verdicts, join up in groups and start demanding, like Miss Delia Weeks. Start embarrassing them with petitions. Oh, you don't want to sign? But I know you know. When I see you on the street, you know, I know. You refuse to sign this petition to increase the age of a child who can give consent on the island. I see you. It is our virtue as women. It is our virtue as women that has to come back up. You have to remember you are a virtuous woman. I'm not saying a religious woman. That is not it. I'm saying a virtuous woman who learns how to put herself and her feelings. Somehow they have conned you into thinking you are selfish when you do that. That is not the case. That's the natural order of things. Because a feminine person must feel good first before she says, yes, I'll do this. Or no. Wait until you feel good about these things that these people are bringing to you before you say yes to them. Because usually it doesn't get better, you know. Especially if you're dealing with a person who has not yet learned how to cherish you. And your men cherish you by listening to you tell them what feels good, what hurts you, what you like, what you don't like. If that man cherishes you, he will make the adjustment. He will complain about it. Oh, you tough. Oh, you hard. I know what I'm talking about. You're tough. You're hard. If he loves you and wants to build something proper with you, that man will rise to his strong masculine self. He will man up. They're talking about alpha male. He will alpha himself up and remember his true nature, and he will step up to protect you, provide for you, and preserve you and the family you build together. Any man that puts his family at risk does not deserve this family. A man that puts his family at risk of breakage by cheating with here and there, this person is saying, I don't really want this. I don't really know if I deserve this family. What I'm saying is sometimes we can do a better job on the front end, screening these people we say yes to. And your best tool is that little feeling in your belly. That feeling in your belly. That feeling in your belly. Okay, I still feel good about him. I'm moving forward. But I didn't like how we looked at that girl, you know, when you see we were outside together. Strike! Have a conversation about it. Let him know this did not feel good for me. I felt violated. I felt uncomfortable. I felt disgusted by it. Please, I would prefer if you don't do it again. You go out tomorrow and he's still doing it. Next week he's still doing it. Is that your fit? Is that your match? Is that your person you're going to hitch your wagon to for the rest of your life? It's on the front end, ladies, that we have to make better decisions, because you're in a more powerful bargaining position up there. Before you have said yes, until you get what you are looking for that makes you feel good, totally have to stay in ants nest. Totally have to stay in pocket. Totally have to stay in hand. Find Mr. and Madam Palmer. Ever handle your business over there. It's not my job to handle you. Until you are okay with me telling you what I need for me to feel good and comfortable. That's how masculine and feminine energy works. That's how it works. But if you, as the woman, you want to be down there, you want to do everything for them. Before you meet them, they're asking you for money. That is a... Don't say it. If you are in that position, I'm telling you, before you meet him, he wants to be in your funduk. Before he even tells you what he wants to do with you, you know. Before he even tells you what he wants from you. He wants to be all up in your l'escalated chien. He can want to be in l'escalated chien, but you have a tongue, you have a mouth, and you have your what you want. It's your job to negotiate. So this business about make child for me, if I poko mete on bag asif zong mwen, asif finger mwen, how ka di la la? Make child for you to do what with the child? And you telling me eventually we may become boyfriend and girlfriend? You think it's an honor for me to be just your girlfriend for the rest of my life? And have people talking bad about me in these small communities where they're so quick to talk? Meanwhile, you out there think gallivanting like as if you are the king of the hill? Are you okay with that? Everybody must assess and check, what am I doing to contribute to this mess? Because it's a mess. What am I not doing that I ought to be doing to clean up this mess? That's it. And it starts with me. It starts with me. I cannot sit here and know what I know and keep it to myself and just talk like, shh, that's what, you know, this is a quick and easy fix right here with this. I would be out of order if I just keep it to myself. Oh, I've done this 26 years. I've seen it work. I'm out of order if I keep it to myself. So each of us must examine ourselves. What does Dominica call for you to offer it today? Haske, we are on a track that is enfant way. We're going to enfant way. Why? I promised I would tell you why. The why is because we have stopped taking proper care of the most vulnerable among us. Any culture that descends to that level has gone too far. And you need to reconnect with your virtue, with your righteousness, your real righteousness, not the foolish, sanctimonious, judging foolishness I see happening around there. I'm talking about your own virtue. You are body, you are mind, you are spirit. We have gone too low. The energy is too low. That's what I mean. The vibration on the island is too low. Each person has to reconnect to the virtue in them. What do I need to do now? Because it's a mess. It is a mess if you're telling me on my radio station I have grown men with the audacity to say this kind of stuff that could get other people in other countries arrested. Arrested. And not one person that I've heard can come up and be like, I made a mistake. I need to think about this again. Lenny says, Miss Week said they couldn't even pass the law or else too many men would go to jail. Is that fun to hear about this place that we idealize? Is that fun to hear about the reality? Too many men would go to jail. These are boys that we train in our house. What am I missing as a mother in my house that my son grows up with this idea? Dad, what am I missing? that my son grows up with this idea. We got to do better. We got to do better. We got to do better and stop with the madness. It's madness to say, I cannot talk. I'm afraid of talking. It's madness to say that. Stop it. The people of import have skeletons in their closet. Well, I'm saying, mothers, if your men have abandoned you and won't stand with you, stand for your kids. Stand for your children. Look, grand people talking about, I don't have enough. She have to stay where she is. I'm telling you, we're very close. We're this close. We're this close to implosion, morally speaking, culturally speaking. And we're dancing at the edges of the superfluous and if you want it, you got to do the work to get it back. The so-called honorable people are mostly silent. Well, then we have the wrong honorable people. And you will know that if you connect to the virtue in you. If our so-called honorable people are mostly silent, these are not the kind of honorable people, therefore I need. Isn't that like deductive reasoning? And so what is the consequence? We teach people how to treat us. And the laws must be revised if we're going to protect children, especially girl children. The boys too. They just don't yet have the courage to tell you what they're doing to the little boys because they don't want to look weird or weirder than they already sound. Because once you get to that level of hedonism and thinking that is just purely pleasure-based, regardless of consequences, you're not looking out for, because it's not about creating relationships with these 13, 14, 15-year-olds. It's about pleasure and power. So it's like drugs. We develop a certain level of tolerance. And so we want more. The brain wants more. There's a lot of brain rewiring work that has to happen. And I'm telling you, it starts with me. Yeah, the cycle has to be broken. And it starts with me. It really ends with me. That's the answer. Because that's the answer for you. It starts with me and it ends with me. Because we cannot control what other people do. We can control what we do. We can control what we do. Mothers and fathers putting their children in homes with strangers. They think they know these people, but no, you don't. No, you don't. You don't know their 14-year-old son and his frame of mind. You used to know the 14-year-old son when he was 5. He's 14 now. His body's changing. He's got a father who perhaps is not in the house or hasn't taught him how to handle his body. And your little child is just ripe for the plucking. Where the churches, they need to do their best for the children in the villages. Look, what I'm saying is, if a system stops working for you, chuck it and create a new one. If the churches are forming the fool, they're mucking around again, chuck them. Start fresh. Unless you shine light, and you don't need much light, Mervyn. My friend Mervin is sometimes afraid for me. Mervin is like, I fear, I don't know, they're going to listen. Are they going to listen? Let me tell each of you, darkness is really not a thing. Darkness is the absence of light. So, what does that say about those of us who are light bearers and virtuous people on the island? We have gone, that's a bigger problem than the darkness. That's a bigger problem than the darkness. If it's in the churches, that's where it was. Pull your children out of their churches. Pain is how the brain changes. The government for too long has taken the issues of children's welfare for a joke. They have the same department doing probation and the same few people doing welfare. Primarily culpable. The welfare department needs more resources. I don't want to hear it that there's no money. There's enough money to build a new set of houses for people, like I said, from scratch. Some of this money, there's enough money. Influencer says they do receive a monthly allowance, actually, to my knowledge. There must be more resources because this is important. It's important. The society will fall apart if you don't have these systems in place that are working. We can't just have them in name only. They have to be working. Ramona says, I'm asking for interested persons for us to come together and do some thinking, do some brainstorming about how we can help the community. We cannot continue to sit on the sidelines. The next step is to take action. You take positive action. You got to take positive action. They're giving too many people that don't need money because they support the PAL rep and children that need a financial help getting. It's got to end. The system must be reevaluated. It is not working. That's what I said with my mouth. It is not working. Not for enough people. It's not working for enough people. It is falling apart at the seams. It is not working well. Mervin says now they're taking all kinds of untrained children straight from high school and sending them to the welfare department because their families voted for them time and time. It is failing our children. It is so ridiculous to me. This idea that the country is now 50% this, 50% that. Do you realize how many of our people we're losing in this way? Because we're not cultivating them? Because of what? Because they don't agree with our ideas? Look, I know we're smart. I know we're smart people. Because everywhere we go, we excel. I know we're smart. Are we wise? My dad used to say, Whoop used to say, don't be a smart fool. Don't be a smart fool. Be wise. Ideas. When horrible things like this happen everywhere else, they look at it, they dissect it, and you pull out the lessons from it. You pull out the lessons from it. But to just wait, and then it's foolishness. And it's time to stop it. It's not working. And the system, the country cannot take much more. The people cannot take much more. They can't take much more of this. Purpose that is being destroyed. Purpose that is not being nurtured. But what is the future then? So what are we creating? This, whatever you're doing today, that's essentially your future, Because if you keep doing that, that's the result you see 5 months from now, 5 years from now. What are we doing today? That's our future. If today what we're doing is letting scumbags off and refusing to care for our children and our mentally ill, that's our future, This cannot be about politics. It cannot be about politics. It's nonsense to look at it from a political perspective. Absolute madness to look at it from a political standpoint. It's madness. It makes zero sense. Mary says the old grotto home. We have resources. We have resources where we can start. Buy an airbed, buy a mattress. And if you don't have a mattress, I'm telling you, I know. Mwen lave ase kaban pisa mwen, evelame mwen. You start where you are with what you have. This kid in your home, your child, look, there were 10 of us, in our little house. 10. 10 of us. Look, Jacqueline, isn't that right? That's where I learned the format of meetings, man. I remember being so nervous. Jacqueline is talking about when people from the Youth Development Division, like Warren Stanford and Mr. Bontiff and Giftus John, many others, they would come down and just be with us in the community. Back in the day, we were like dead au bon Dieu, There was no electricity even from when you hit Ponguglu, not Ponguglu, but what you call that? Purple Turtle. No electricity, darkness. Unity buzayu. But look at what they shaped. Look at where Jacqueline is doing what she's doing. These things are important. These things are important. This is how you nurture and you groom, proper grooming, not grooming pour envioler. None of these guys ever. I don't remember feeling that energy from any of these people. I don't remember feeling any of that destructive violation energy from any of these men. And C's is saying that the Youth Division still conducts leadership training. I am telling you, this is where I started learning about Adlerian therapy from Tony. And I was like, oh my goodness, what? Really? He had us close our eyes, go back, meditate on our childhood. I'm like, so start talking about childbirth order and all of this stuff. And I was like, this is fascinating stuff. I want to do this. Let's not be hypocrites. We all know the political environment now has placed the village council on the back burner. Councils make recommendations and power reps turn them down because the person may not be a supporter of theirs. So children just remain and suffer. Well, what I'm saying is, look, every human being is born with this power, y'all. Each of us, I'm telling you, we have so much power. But if you surrender it to a political system, it is one of the most oppressive feelings in the world. I'm saying, if that is your case, learn how to work outside of the system structure. Learn how to take your power back from the structure. Learn how to take your power back. Don't surrender your power. to human beings that you have appointed even to take care of you. Yeah, Miss Leatham, you're right. You're not crazy. You are energetically connected. You got spidey sense. You got clinical judgment spidey senses. Hmm? I cannot in good conscience trust any human being until I have had time with them to learn them, to know them, to decide if I can even trust what they're saying they will actually do. You can't trust another human being. Do you trust your own self completely? How many times you've told yourself, "I'm going to do this by next year"? Your little January 1, what you call those? Your decisions that you make. Your resolutions. Thank you, my son. How many of us have made resolutions every January that we haven't still kept from when we were 10 years old? Do you trust yourself completely? How can you trust another human being completely? Don't put yourself under that irrational stress, because it's irrational. That's right, Ramona. Eczema can actually be aggravated by stress. All over the world, kids are being neglected. All over the world. But you know what? There used to be a time that all of us value when it wasn't that rampant on the island of Dominica. I'm saying we know how to do that. Let's do it. I'm saying we know how to do that. Let's do it. We don't have to be like everybody else. Acknowledge the problem. Acknowledge it. And take positive action to fix it. Acknowledge the problem and take positive action to fix it. The youth division, when the youth division came down to Cottage and we formed our little CYM, Cottage Youth Movement, was the government involved in our CYM? So I don't want to hear much about politics when it comes to this. I'm saying it's the people who have surrendered their power if they feel so ineffective. And you've got to change that mindset. You vote for your people, yes, but you don't have to do everything they tell you. What is this? What is this? Oh, wow, man. Dominica needs a real foundation for our children with the specialties needed. Some schools have no one to counsel their students. Yeah. Our resources have to be properly allocated to include mental health and child care services, child welfare services. That's important. If a society is no longer able to or no longer willing to care for their most vulnerable, you have seen them at the base of their existence, morally speaking. Okay? C says she missed the interview. Are we certain the community people knew how hard-pressed they were in raising the child? Being church leader and wife, could pride have kept them from reaching out to the rest of the community for support? Are we really a supportive community as we? No, in crisis mode. That's why we're strong, C's. That's why we're strong. When our emotions are high. This is a piece too about brain rewiring, where we have to understand you are separate from your emotions. Your emotions, you're experiencing your emotions. They're going to pass. They're going to fade. But your actions must continue. Right action must continue. Lene is saying, I will speak for Kernisha. And when you hear this, hear that Kernisha is a representation of our vulnerable children. Kernisha is a representation of our vulnerable children. That we who stay quiet, we who act as if we didn't see that man approach that young child on the street, that we are saying yes to by these behaviors. And it is us who have to make different choices and take different actions. And you don't need the whole world to agree with you before you do what is right. You don't need the whole world to be on the same page. People don't have to like you. You're not here for other people. And your heart will tell you. If what I'm saying is resonating with you, your heart is telling you, I must take action. Yeah, mothers we have to do a better job with our sons because we know what it is. We know what it is. We got to do a better job with our sons because I promise you, a son who's able to hold his relationship together means you get to see your grandchild when they're 40 because you will be able to maintain a good relationship with your grandchild, your generations to come. Do you understand? That's the importance of us training our children well on how to hold good relationships. If my son believes it's okay to be cheating here, there, and everywhere, the quality of the relationship in the home can never be okay because no woman, even if she doesn't say no to it, is going to be happy with it. How do you think her unhappiness is going to impact your grandchild? It's all connected. Fiona says the religion thing is killing me. We use religion like drugs. Really, some of us like drugs. Like drugs. The good ones are taken. Well, you know what? If the good ones are taken, if all the good ones are taken, West Paco. Joan says, it takes two to have a child, and as women, it's our responsibility to protect ourselves. It's not his, right off the bat, until a man really forms a connection with you. What is he protecting? And why is he protecting? Especially when they're trained to have you, Sue, Sally, Jane, Mary, Joan, Pat. Why would he come to you and right away start protecting you? It's you who has to decide and say, hey, this is what I need if this is what you want. And again, except if he abducts you, it's your yes or your no. Big men with no values. It's just very disappointing. Very disappointing. Communication, very important. Yeah, Claudia. I just wasn't feeling that. Okay? I just wasn't feeling that. So, talking about the copycat effect, I see somebody who has been posting on social media. There are many weak people with very weak personalities who are easily influenced by situations like this. Like when they hear somebody got kidnapped, then they start finding that they could be that person too, and they could do that too. This is something for the community to be aware of, as we have here exemplified by this very weak person who is needing some validation. This is a personality where there's not much inside of that personality. There's not much inside of that person. And so this person in that weakness is finding opportunities to try to get some attention and really affection. Okay, some attention, even if it's negative for some people, because they are feeling so empty on the inside. This appears to be an opportunity for them to try to, in a way, like kind of sponge off of the energy. Because here's the thing, when you see what they post, you're going to say, oh, behave yourself. Oh, stop it. Oh, who are you? Oh, what you doing that for? So that's what this kind of personality is desperate for: attention and love. So a thing like that, I just send love and light, universal love and light to universal love and light, which is bigger than me, bigger than us. And I want to draw the attention of the people in the mental health field to this kind of stuff. So you realize you've got this kind of stuff on the island. And so to pretend we don't have it is a mistake. Okay? To pretend we don't have it is a mistake. So we have to educate the public to look out for, to listen to sick. Over here, they might say that's a sick puppy kind of situation. And so that's what, that's what this is. Okay? It also suggests that there is impact. So we are reaching the words, the light. Yeah, the light is getting connected to the darkness. When you have that kind of response, the light is connecting. So you got to keep the light up. You got to keep the light up. Okay? That is very correct. The majority of child abuse cases, it occurs not by strangers, but by family, friends, and close associates, because they've got access. And many of them are sick puppies. Many of them are very sick. We have a lot of very traumatized people on the island. Again, if we don't have proper mental health systems, who have not been able to go in and sit and talk to a therapist to clear this stuff out, to reset, to heal. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I just want to continue to encourage us, now that you realize we have so many issues that need addressing. We have so many issues that need addressing. We have to work together. We have to work together. We have to work outside of systems if the system is not being supportive. Okay? To reset. Because I promise you, you can make money. Dominica could become one of the wealthiest islands in the Caribbean. But let me tell you, what is wealth? What is wealth? What is wealth? What is wealth if your children, your future right here, what is wealth if your children are not being cared for? What is wealth if your mentally ill people are not being cared for? Okay? What is wealth if you're mentally ill and not being cared for? Because any culture that ignores its most vulnerable, essentially, like I say, you are at the base, you're at the bottom right here. Like, think about it. Implosion. All right? So I want to say thank you all so much. I've been on here for like 3 hours. I want to send universal love and light to all of us, to Dominica. When you pray, imagine Dominica the way you visualize it in your mind that you really want it to be. Imagine people who need help healed. Imagine it the way it used to be, but 2022 version. Okay? So thank you all for showing up. I want to remind you to think better so you can feel better and do better. I will see you soon. Thank you all so much for participating. Peace.